That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a f***ing toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to this week's episode of the OneCast. You just see Ben and I in here in the studio. Pete got a promotion.
He got a promotion, and that means he's got a little work commitment tonight.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's either up or out, right? So congratulations to Pete for getting promoted. I know he's been working hard in his company. So, unfortunately, he's not going to be here for this episode, but that's all right because we got a great guest lined up for you this afternoon. But before we get to our guests, let's get to those who support this show the most. Speaking of that, OneCast Fishing, head on over to OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast, all one word, at checkout. Get your hands on all the soft plastics, all the weedless Ned heads, the snagless jigs, everything that OneCast Fishing has to offer, to include the long neck hooks, which are a hot commodity, especially getting to this time of the year when you're getting that offshore dragging going on, speed worms in the grass. If you have grass in your lake, all sorts of stuff, get your hands on those long neck hooks. And then head on over and visit our friends at CarolinaWatersNC.com. Use the code TheOneCast, all one word, at checkout. Get yourself that UPF gear, those shirts, those hats, the gloves, the buffs, everything that they have to offer, and stay protected from those UV rays. Where else do they need to go, Ben?
So now that you've loaded up on your baits, your lures, you're protected up from the sun, you need something for your eyes. So use our link in the description down there because that will save you some money. And it also helps us out a little bit. I think it's 50% saving. But go over to check out Hobie Eyewear. Phenomenal company, great people, but more importantly, an amazing product. I think the most important feature is that they've got those whole float frames.
Yep.
So going down the lake, or you're going the boat, scoop up that fish or set a hook and fall in the water, or if you're like Pete and get tossed out of the boat, lose your sunglasses, they'll float to the top. They won't be in the bottom of the lake. So make sure you go check out Hobie Eyewear. And then you've got your baits, your clothes, your eyes.
Now you need to find the fish.
Now you got to find the fish. And to do that before you go on your next fishing trip, you want to have that preparation, gather that intelligence, have a game plan going out there. Use that Deep Dive app. Go into your app store, download that. If you haven't used it already, make sure you take advantage of the free trial. But after that, it's definitely worth the subscription for the year. It's got high percentage locations, best areas based upon tournament results. You can adjust it for your season. You can see the weather conditions with the wind, the wave effects, water inflows, current. It's a great feature, and it covers pretty much almost every lake out there in the country. And once you go out there, use a deep dive, you go win $100,000 tournament.
Yeah.
Then what are you going to do?
You need to buy a house, right? Mm-hmm. Or some land to build a house on. And if you're in the market for that in Central North Carolina, you need to hit up our good friend. We call him Uncle Terry, 4x4 Realtor on Instagram. You can find him at 919-475-5002. Terry Carpenter, serving the Central North Carolina area. He's also a bass fisherman himself. So he really helped Pete and Chelsea find their dream home here in Central North Carolina, a spot where Pete can put the boat in the garage. So get a hold of Terry Carpenter, 4x4 Realtor on Instagram. And he's got an email. I can't remember what it is, but at the end of the day, just go ahead and shoot us a DM if you're trying to get a hold of Terry, and we'll make sure we send you his way.
Yeah,
so,
man. We got a great guest coming on here in a couple minutes. Todd Walters, MLF, Invitational Angler from Kernersville. We also had the opportunity to sit down with him a couple weeks ago at the Elevate Outdoors event. He was the Garmin rep there, so we were talking quite a bit about Garmin. And I think we still didn't get that footage up, actually, but and drop that. But that was a great conversation. That's where we met him at Elevate, so we'll bring him here on the second to talk about how he got into fishing, professional fishing, becoming a pro angler, because it's almost a second career for him as he talked to us.
I don't know how they do it. He's going to talk to us about it, but yeah, what a grind of a profession, man. And speaking of
well, I was going to say,
go ahead.
It's usually a grind. Unless you're at Lake Fork.
Yeah, well, and then you got 10 century belts going on there.
So. But we just want to say congratulations to Tucker Smith out there winning.
Rookie.
rookie.
A rookie dub, man.
And Paul Marks was second, rookie too. They stay in the same house. Paul won the last event on Lake Hartwell, and I think Tucker was like second or third too in that event. So they just swapped places there. Maybe Paul kind of regrets spending 20 minutes to get a pizza, but maybe not. His buddy won, but
yeah, he Timmy Horton that deal, didn't he?
He did.
He didn't win, but he Timmy Horton did.
You know, it was funny because everyone kind of applauded it because he had such a great bag and he was doing so well in the tournament. Of course, he ends up losing by like less than a pound. And everyone's like, oh, that got you. It was like, well, I mean, what are you going to do? You've already got over 30 pounds. How likely you're going to cool up? Is it,
Yeah.
You know, so, and you don't want to, you know, you're managing fish and all that, but you know, great event out there. Fork is still on the bucket list for us because it's
got toads in it.
Yes,
man.
it does.
I'll tell you what, I would not want to be the angler that fished Lake Fork and didn't catch a limit every day. Like that would be the biggest emotional roller coaster in the world, right?
Yeah, but you had guys with 4 fish for 25 pounds.
That's ridiculous. I think Milliken had 4 fish for over 20 something pounds, dude. But yeah, it was a cool event. What else is upcoming? We just fished locally here. We had a pretty decent event at Falls Lake, man. Got him on a frog, got him on a lipless, got him on a minnow, got him all sorts of different ways and stuff like that. Cashed the last check for Fishers and Men. So that was a good event. And then our good buddy Mike Johns, who's fishing the Toyota Series, he is by the time you're hearing this, it'll be day 2 of the Toyota Series at Gunnersville. And Mike's on a good bag in the eelgrass and stuff down there. So
I mean, every tournament's galore right now because I mean Sabine is this week for Bassmasters.
Yep.
Day 1 as you're hearing this. MLF heavy hitters.
Yep.
Next week is the NPFL at Douglas. So and the Invitationals are coming up again. So,
yeah, well, Todd just got done. We're going to bring him on here. Todd Walters just got finished up at Pickwick Lake for the MLF Invitationals, and he did a hell of a job. So let's bring him on here, Ben. Todd Walters, how you doing, brother?
What's up, guys? How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for hanging in there with us for 7 minutes while we ran our mouths about all of our partnerships and our updates in the fishing world. So all the way from Kernersville, which I think is only like 2 hours away from here.
Not far at all.
It's right in between Winston and Greensboro.
Yeah, man. So we love having new guests on the show. It's a great opportunity to get your story out there and introduce yourself to our audience, which, you know, is, man, we got people in Spain and in France and all over the world that listen and stuff. I don't even know if can they translate it? I don't know how that works, but nevertheless, you want to give us a quick intro and where you're from, and then we'll dive into how you got into this game, brother.
Yeah, so I am Major League Fishing Tackle Warehouse Invitational Pro Todd Walters. This is my 5th year on tour. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, but I've been in Central North Carolina for the last 25 plus years. So I'm spent half my life up north and half my life down here. So I have a different perspective. I'm close with people from New York. I'm still close with a lot of friends that I went to high school with, and I've grown some very personal relationships down here as well. So it's kind of cool. I love it because it gives everybody has a different outlook on things. So it's everybody's, no matter where you go or where you're from, there's good and bad people, right? There's so much more good people than there are bad people, despite what social media will tell you. So there's some great people everywhere.
So Buffalo, New York, for the first part of your life. Is that where you were born at?
Yeah, that's where I spent the first half of my life is in Buffalo. I lived through 4 Super Bowl losses and said, I need to go south. No, I've always wanted to live in the South. I wanted to live in the South when I was in high school. A lot of it started with fishing, because being a bass fisherman in Buffalo, New York is extremely rare, because you have such a diverse, you have much more diversity up there than you do down here. Mostly trout, salmon, walleye. I think we talked about this when I was in Sanford. It's diverse here too, but bass fishing is like 4th or 5th up there. There's just not a lot of people that target bass. But I always got into bass fishing and the competition side of it, and I always loved it. And I grew up as a little kid walking around, and for whatever reason, I fell in love with fishing. It's really not my family. I have 2 older brothers. Neither one of them fish. They could care less. My grandfather got me started in fishing, and for whatever reason, I just took to it. And I don't have to tell you guys, you get addicted basically.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. You get addicted. You always want to be out there. When you're not out there, you're thinking about it.
Mhm.
And I mean, that had to be tough up in New York, because half the year, I think your water's frozen. So you can't even get out there and chase them.
Yeah, that's why I moved south. I could spend more time on the water. Ice fishing, I've done it before, and fly fishing and trout and salmon. But I knew to get good, I had to be able to do it year round and do it as often as I could. To get better at anything, you got to practice more and more and more. Can you hear my dog growling?
Oh, it's a nice. Hey, it's cool. It's a little gremlin, and you can hear it. Yeah,
It is a little gremlin.
yeah, a little gremlin. But no, you're good. You're good. I don't think. Hey, if the audience hears a little dog in the back, hey, it's a little dog in the back. Not a big deal.
Okay.
So growing up in Buffalo, New York, were you the kid like a lot of young kids that were like following Bassmaster and
Yep.
stuff like that?
Yeah.
That was you?
Yep. There was me and probably 2 or 3 other guys that I still maintain contact. One of them was my very best friend growing up. And he was way better than I was. So I always would work harder and I think that's kind of where it started, because he always beat me. And it just drove me to get better and better and better. And for whatever reason, I've seen it happen with several people. They just have a very natural ability to be able to catch fish. And it's frustrating for people who have to work twice as hard to catch just as many fish. I guess it's just one of those things.
Who was your guy? Who was your favorite?
My guy, Brad Brudnicki, and we're still good friends to this day. And he still fishes. He fishes. He's a teacher up there, and he's that he gets his summers free, so he gets to fish all summer long. And he has a family, so he doesn't get to dedicate a lot of his time to it. But he still probably beat me.
Well, if you were gonna if you had a like a baseball card for an angler, who was your baseball card professional when you were growing up? Who was your favorite?
I grew up I always admired Aaron Martins.
Okay.
He was my guy. He was different. He was I think a lot of it was relatable. Him and Skeet and a couple other guys that came over from California, very, very different backgrounds. I felt that I had a very, very different background when I came to bass fishing. Is born. I mean, it's Southeast, right?
Yeah.
It's from Virginia down to Florida over to Texas, predominantly. That's not to say that people don't come from everywhere that do it, but Aaron was my guy, and he was a finesse fisherman, and he was different. He was just very, very smart, and just a mellow dude that did things a little differently. And I always looked up to him. It sucked that he died. He died way too young, which was he was always my guy.
Yeah. I mean, he was a steward of the profession. Everybody respected him, and he brought some things to the table that don't even compare to forward-facing sonar, in my opinion.
I mean, the one I always remember, was it up there at Sandusky Bay, where he was throwing in all those reeds way
blackbirding?
Back. Yeah, blackbirding. Yeah.
Oh no, that was Havasu, Nevada.
That was Havasu. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay,
but that was in the cattails, right?
Yeah, it was the little baby birds were falling in the water, and he was flipping on braid like 50 feet back in these cattails. You couldn't even see what the hell he was throwing at. But I don't know. The dude's just
that's fishing.
I mean, very special. He was a very special fisherman.
I mean, you're exactly right, because who would think to even do that just to try it?
I don't know.
I mean, I would never personally. It's like what?
There's another guy that I traveled with. Personality wise, they're nothing alike, but their fishing ability is very, very similar. And his name's Martin Villa. He fishes the Bass Pro Tour now. He's from Virginia. I traveled with him for 2 years, and he has a very good natural ability to understand fish behavior. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that he was a fly fisherman. So he understands, and he's a finesse fisherman. He grew up on the Potomac. He understands current. He understands how fish position in current, and he started out fly fishing. I mean, we all still fly fish, but he had that very natural instinct like Aaron did. And he reminded me of Aaron in that perspective.
Well, let's rewind a little bit. So you're in Buffalo, New York. You graduate high school, right?
Yep.
I don't know. Not everybody did. One of my good buddies. And then did you move on? Did you go to college or no?
No. Well, kind of. So
I did kind of too.
Squeaked through high school is the correct way to put it. I just always had attention deficit disorder, and it was very hard in high school. I just didn't find it interesting at all.
Yeah.
Couldn't focus. But so after that, I kind of bummed around Buffalo for a couple of years and fished quite a bit, and probably spent too many nights out too late, and had a great time. Don't regret a minute. But I lived a crazy lifestyle for a few years, and fishing's the always thing that I went back to. So had an opportunity to move south, jumped all over it.
Were you in a band or something?
No, but and that's only because I have zero artistic ability. Like I can't play the drums, I can't play guitar. I'm a horrible singer. So I have no musical ability whatsoever. It's interesting because me and my two brothers, my oldest brother he's an unbelievable artist. He has a crazy artistic ability. He never really used it in his life, but it was always music, art, things like that. But me, not so much.
Okay. Well, what was your vision like when you, were you like always, I'm going to fish professionally? Is that what your entire game plan was? Or did you bounce around and do some other things here and there? That's
always been the goal. But unfortunately you need a lot of money to be able to do that. And I don't come from a lot of money. So I've always had to, as my wife comes in here and interrupts me.
She won't stop. Bye.
So where was I?
No, we were talking about you wanted to always fish professionally, but unfortunately it takes a lot of money to do that. It
does. And you spend a lot of your time working, you get distracted, and then you fish. I fished BFLs and stuff and club tournaments, but I always wanted to get to the level. And fortunately, during the COVID year, me and David Williams battled for Angler of the Year at the Toyotas. And he asked me, I've known David for several years. He's one of the guys from North Carolina that actually accepted me as a Yankee fishing in the South and competing with these guys. So I appreciated David. But me and him battled it out, and I qualified to fish the tour. And he said to me after the last tournament, he was like, "So you gonna fish the tour next year?" And he had already been fishing in it. And I was like, "Nah, man, it's too late." I mean, at the time I was like 47 years old. But then I thought about it and then I was like, I could really do this. And I had a little bit of financial backing at the time. So I got sponsorship. AAR Roofing was my first sponsor, who I got through a friend of mine who he's from the South, and he and I kind of grew a bond, and we kind of hit it off and got along. And he made the introduction to the owners of his company, and they were gracious enough to sponsor me for my first 3 years on tour. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without them. So again, having that financial backing, be able to do it. So I did it, and I said, I'm going to do it. So I quit my full-time job. I had a friend of mine who I've always been in the IT industry in some form or way or another. I did sales. I sucked at it because I wasn't good at the IT and the technical side of it. And I was just always distracted by fishing, right? So again, if you don't give 100% of your time, how are you ever going to succeed? So I kind of half-assed my job and, would go back to fishing and work harder on fishing than I did actually at work. I'm sure a lot of guys on this podcast can relate. We work to fish, right? Yeah. I mean, it's basically what we do when we want to do this. So I just did whatever I could to get better at fishing and get the financial backing, and did, and rolled with it the first year, and they helped me my first 3 years. So that became the relationship. And with Ionic, and at the time, Martin Kobler, who owns the company, and I kind of formed a relationship. And going back to saying I sucked at sales. So Martin is a very brilliant engineering mind. He's very type A. He's German background. He's the stereotypical German, very stubborn, but knows absolutely nothing about fishing. And I've been around the fishing industry forever. So, I knew the trends. I knew what to do. I worked trade shows for sponsors before, and he's not a people person, to be honest with you. And I am. I love talking about fishing. Like you guys saw at the trade show. Like, I don't mind doing that stuff because I love it. I love fishing. Yeah. And that's what's driven me. And that's what drives me, is just and the support of my wife and my family and my friends, and everybody's always been encouraging. And, hasn't have the results that I wanted. I've gotten little sneak peeks and finished second at West Point last year. And, but I know to get better at this game, you gotta just keep going forward and keep getting better, and when you go to these fisheries, you go to places that you've never been before. So a lot of guys have a leg up on you, having that lake knowledge and that experience. Like, for example, last week on the Tennessee River, it's a completely different scenario than it is here. You have the river system, and the Alabama River is different from the Tennessee River, and Florida is different from New York. And as much time as I spent in New York, I didn't, Champlain's still 6 hours from where I lived in Buffalo, New York.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. It's the only thing that I really had access to growing up was Lake Erie, which, when you don't have a boat, you can't really, and I never had a boat growing up. So, we finally got a little 14-foot boat. And how many days can you go out on Lake Erie in a 14-foot boat, right?
Probably like two and a half days a year. Maybe if Presque Isle Bay or something is flat, slick, calm. So
we spent a lot of time fishing the Finger Lakes. And fish bass in the Finger Lakes. So, so they're all different. Everything's different. And learning these different places every time you go is, hopefully you get better and you keep progressing and you keep moving forward.
Well, I mean, coming from the Northland, there's a lot of natural bodies of water up there versus, you come down here and we're talking, highland, lowland reservoirs, and everything was created for power generation and stuff like that, and flood control. So it's vastly different. Me being from Michigan, we have nothing but natural lakes up in Michigan. And I know the Northland, all the Northlands are like that. But you moved down to Kernersville, North Carolina from Buffalo. Were you married at the time?
No. Okay. I didn't get married till I moved. Have my wife moved from Florida to here, but she's my middle school girlfriend, if you can believe that. This
is an important thing that a lot of the listeners, I wouldn't say need to hear, but like a lot of them want to hear this stuff. When you made the decision saying, I'm going to basically quit my job and I'm going to go fish for a living, how did that conversation go with your wife?
I just brought it up to her casually. This was kind of in the very beginning stages, because I'm like, if she's not on board, I'm not even gonna think about it, right?
Hey, smart strategy, planting the seeds.
Yeah. She's the most important thing to me. So her and my family. So if she wasn't on board, it wouldn't even be worth having any conversations with somebody. And she was immediately supportive, and she said, "This is all you've wanted to do your entire life. Just go. If you have an opportunity." And I always said that I was never going to put myself in debt, because if I did, I would quit. And so that kind of led to, I think I was working, I quit my job, but I had a friend who was in the IT industry who would still work through his company. Because I do a very specific thing, which is low voltage cabling. It's fiber optic and low voltage cabling. So, I'm still in the IT industry, and just recently started my own company. To continue to keep, again, moving forward. And I am adding a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, I make my own schedule. I don't have to worry about, putting in time to take off to go fishing. If I want to leave at 3:00 in the afternoon and go fish, I will. If something's going on with my boat and I want to get it right before I leave, I can go in my garage and do that for a day. So Now I own my own company.
What do you do now? What's your company?
So it's layer 1 cabling, NC. It's low voltage fiber optic cabling. So we do a lot of IT grunt work that IT people don't want to do. Install access points, install cameras, run cable. It's very we have a lot of manufacturing partners, so it's not fun work, but it's not terrible, and it's pretty lucrative. Just because there's not a lot of people who do it. So, yeah, it's fun too. It's interesting. It's fun. You ride lifts around, you run cables, you terminate cables. It's not bad.
But you want to be fishing for a living. And, I think that's, and Ben and I, we've been to, a number of expos, right? From ICAST to the Classic, to the Raleigh Fishing Show, to you name it, all over the place. And, one of the things that we see a lot of times is how much this sport has grown. And now you have the high school bass, high school MLF, collegiate level, so on and so on. And a lot of these kids, and I want to get your opinion on this, because you talked about owning a company that has nothing to do with fishing, but I guarantee you it's a means to an end, which is fishing for a living. How important is it, in your opinion, to have either active or passive income if these younger kids are trying to get into this game?
You have to have money, man. If you don't have it, you're going to need it, because it is. Do you believe what's happening right now? I wish I could show you guys what's happening right now.
Somebody's fighting, rolling on their back or something.
They're running around like maniacs in the background. You guys can pause, please.
Yeah. You pause it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we're back from that little break we had there. And
we're talking about finances, right?
Yeah, talking about active and passive incomes, like Ben and I, we've seen a number of high school and college anglers that, this is their dream. The dream is to fish professionally.
And we've talked to them, we've asked them, and it's just like, I'm just going to go to college and go fish the opens and fish the elites. And and then we ask them, well, how are you going to do that?
Yeah, how are you going to make money?
Yeah.
What's your plan, right? And so from somebody in your position who owns their own company, what's your words of advice to these young kids that are trying to get into this game?
Figure it out early. I was lucky enough and talk to people, ask guys that, everybody has their own pathway to get to, be able to do this. You either have money, make money, or figure out a way to provide value to either your sponsors or your employer that is valuable to them, so that you can, justify your expense to that organization, because it is an expense to them. So you have to prove your worth. You have to do a lot of free stuff. You have to establish relationships. You have to go to trade shows, introduce yourself. You always have to be professional. You always have to, having good products helps. Ionic's been a great product. There's no doubt about that. So having a great product definitely helps, but everybody's done it a little bit differently. I was lucky enough, and a lot of guys, they're more than willing to help you, even the guys you wouldn't really expect. Like, I have relationships with Justin Lucas. I've hit him up for ideas. Brian Schmidt is a close personal friend. I've talked to him a lot about, because he's a guide. So he gets his money from guiding, and he owns a guiding service on the Chesapeake. So you have to figure it out. That is my number one piece of advice, is what works for me and what works for Brian and what works for Justin. We're all different, right? So you just have to use your strengths, do a lot of stuff that a lot of other people aren't willing to do, because you have to put yourself out there a lot, which, can create some awkward situations. But if you really want it, man, just do whatever you're very good at and find your way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is no book answer on how to do life at all. And I think a lot of times people that are searching for the answer are searching for the wrong thing. There's no such thing as the right answer. There's better and worse ones, and they're all going to be tailored to your individual circumstance, right? Like that's just how it is. Everybody's different. Everybody comes from a different place, and everyone usually has a different value proposition to different companies based on their personality and all these other types of things. And so I think it's important, you're fishing Major League Fishing Invitationals. That is not a cheap league by any means of the imagination to fish. I mean, we're talking over $5,000 entry fees per tournament, correct?
It's $5,500 a tournament. Yeah.
$5,500. And how many tournaments a year? 6. So
Plus
go ahead.
And if you want to fish Toyotas, they're $1,600. So you have to, and that's right away. That's 9 weeks away from home. 10 weeks with the championship.
So having another income stream, whether or not you own your own business and you can step away for all that time to make money, or you got Airbnbs, or you got a sugar mama, it doesn't really matter. You got to figure out a way to maneuver that. And I wanted to ask you this, you're fishing at one of the highest levels of competitive bass fishing, right? And some would say that the Bassmaster Opens and the MLF Invitationals are about as hard as it gets, right? They're about as hard as it gets. Because why? Because everyone is trying to qualify for the next level.
And there's more anglers.
There's less spots. There's more anglers and there's less spots, right? Which, you can't keep growing it every year. You're going to end up with 250 anglers. So I get what they're doing. The thing that is really difficult is when I qualified, you have to, even your first year on the Invitational Tour at the time, you had to finish in the top 75, or you didn't even qualify to fish again the next year. So just because you make it 1 year, there's no guarantees. Like the Elite Series, if you make the Elite Series, great. You have a down year and you're gone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that. There's 10 other guys that are willing to replace you. The Invitational is a little different, and how it's kind of progressed over the last 5 years is interesting. It's unlike any of the other organizations. There's people that are dying to get into the Elite Series. There's people that are dying to get into onto the Bass Pro Tour, right? The Invitationals is a little different. You have some guys who are a little bit older who still want to compete. They still want to compete at that level. You have these younger kids that are trying to make the Bass Pro Tour. Then you have guys like myself who are somewhere in between. Like if I made the Bass Pro Tour, I don't even know that I would fish it. I know my limitations, my capabilities, and I just don't think without giving 100% of myself dedicated 24/7, I can't compete with those guys. It goes back to you get out of it what you put into it. If you do not put 110% into it, there's a guy behind you who's going to put 111% into it. It's just there's a lot of guys that love fishing, and I get it. I'm one of them. How much money do you need? You need a lot of money. Traveling the entry fees are one thing. That doesn't even include traveling expenses. I still have a mortgage back home. I still have a car payment. I still have my business that I need to manage and maintain and take care of. For me to be competitive on the Bass Pro Tour, I wouldn't be. I'd have to make some serious changes. So the Invitationals are a little bit different. I can still compete, and I'm getting better slowly. I don't know that I have enough time physically to be able to catch up, because the learning curve for these kids is so much faster. You have so much access to information, and they know how to use it way better than we do. But there's still that. There's the biology thing, and there's the history thing, and things are going to change. The one thing that I have noticed in 5 years, how it has evolved and how it has changed. You had to qualify to get to the Invitationals before, and it was the old FLW Tour, right? So there was a qualification process, and the only way that you could do that was through the Toyotas. But now it's different, right? Because they need people. So they're reaching out to people, and it's, so you have a very diverse stream of people coming in. Some will be around for a year. Some, are taking a chance. Some are legitimate hammers, and you see where they are because they're there every tournament in the top 50, top 30. Then you have that middle of the pack, and I consider myself a middle of the pack guy. And then you have the guys that are either wealthy and just want to do it for the hell of it, or they just love to fish. They love to be around it, but they don't take it too seriously. I don't know how you don't take it seriously at 5,000 a pop, but hey, you know, they're contributing to the sport in one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure some of the guys on the Invitationals, just like in the MPFL and stuff too, some of them don't mind, old Jim Bob showing up that has FU money and he throws it away, and it doesn't really matter where he finishes in the tournament. Like he's paying your bills, you know what I mean? But I wanted to ask you this question. We talked about financially, you got to have stability to get to do what you do. When did you know? Were you assessing your skills and figuring out, okay, when am I going to pull the trigger on being able to do this? Like, I guess the question is there a certain point in time where you are like,
turn pro?
I'm like, okay, I think I'm good enough. And then, or do you think people just kind of, you should just jump in it and see how good you can swing?
So the thing is, and I still look up to these guys. When you see guys that you compete against at the PFL level, and you start to kind of catch up to them, you're beating them, they're beating you, and then all of a sudden they hit that extra gear, whatever it is. Hank Cherry's a guy that I look up to. He was at the Elevate Outdoors thing. Hank Cherry is somebody that I used to measure up against. Well, how did Hank do in this tournament? Because he was a Lake Norman hammer. And, I competed on Lake Norman a bunch at the BFL level. A lot of the Lake Norman guys are really good. Jason Wilson, David Williams, Shane Lineberger. I know I'm forgetting some people. I can't think of everybody right at the minute, but all of those guys I kind of looked up to and was trying to measure myself up against. And I started competing with them, and I started making All-Americans. I made 3 in 4 years. And I was like, not a lot of guys have done that. So,
sure.
And David, he fished the elites, and I've always been tight with Brian Thrift. Hank Cherry's a guy that I know and look up to. And these guys, Chris Daves is somebody that I still talk to and still have a friendship with. And I've known Chris forever. When I still lived in Buffalo, because I love bass fishing, his dad's a legend. So we hit it off. We're about the same age, and I still maintain contact with them. I'm actually going to stay with them when I go to James River. But when you get encouragement from people that are saying, you're good enough to do it, man, go do it. Heath Toller is a very good friend of mine. He said, dude, you're as good as half of these guys and you're better than half of them. Go give it a shot. So encouragement from other people. And, when you start to get confident, everybody knows this. The more confidence you get, the better you're going to fish. 100%. Yeah. You go into a pocket, you're like, dude, I'm going to smash them in here. Or not even one pocket. You just, at some point during the day, I'm going to smash them. I always told everybody, Kevin Van Dam didn't go out in the morning and say, man, I hope I catch 5 fish today. He's like, I'm going to catch 5 fish. I don't know where, I don't know how, but I'm going to catch 5 fish, and they're probably going to be the biggest 5 fish that live in this lake. Jacob Wheeler's the same way. They have a swagger and a confidence about them. Hank Cherry has swagger and confidence. Brian Thrift does. All the guys at the top of the game, they're more confident, and they know they're going to catch them. And you start competing with these guys, and they start encouraging you. It starts building your confidence. And, that's when I kind of the switch flipped, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I can still do it.
Yeah.
As long as I keep my body in shape, I can still do it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you see a lot of guys, they get there and they're like, man, like I jumped into this, too early or whatever. And then there's guys that are riding some good momentum coming in from BFL All-Americans and, winning high level tournaments around their local area and stuff. Like, man, we know a bunch of our buddies here from North Carolina that they win everything. And so they were like, let me put it at the national level and see how I fare. And they've done pretty good so far. But I did want to ask you, 5 years ago compared to today, how much do you think you've really, how if you were to look at yourself 5 years ago, are you the same fisherman? Do you do the same exact stuff, or you do it vastly
5 years
different?
ago, I had no idea. I had
Oh,
no
really?
idea about Florida. I had no idea about the Tennessee River, inflow, outflow, tides with the James River, tides with the Potomac River, the St. Lawrence River, Lake Champlain, lakes and places. You start to get more comfortable. You have to look at it as a learning experience. I'm getting my butt kicked. I'm finishing middle of the pack. Am I seeing progress in myself as a fisherman? If I see progress in myself, if I feel like I am getting better and I am getting closer and I'm not just BSing myself, I can continue to get better and continue to compete with these guys and continue to progress.
I think that's a good point for folks that take that jump to go compete on a national tour, because we're lucky here in North Carolina. Even you're a couple hours from us, like in our state, you've got highland reservoirs, you've got the rivers, you got down in like Waccamaw, almost like Florida, you've got smallmouth, largemouth spots, you've got grass. Very diverse state in regards to fisheries, like tides and all that, if you go down to the Cape Fear and all. But a lot of places don't have that. And moving around the country, it'd be going, if your first event, if you were coming straight from Buffalo down to, let's say, Okeechobee, it's like what do I do? You get lost out there. And I look at some of these fisheries. I've never fished a TVA either, so all that current pool and how that affects is because that is one thing we don't have around here is a lot of current driven lakes. So
if you were, go ahead.
Current's a big deal too. I mentioned it earlier. Tennessee River is all about the current. Alabama River, who I was talking to Keith Pochet and John Canada at Takeoff. I said, man, before I fished this tournament, I was like, I don't care how I finish. I've learned so much about the Tennessee River during this week, just idling around and watching fish on live scope and seeing their behavior and how they line up in current and how they change and how they respond to fishing pressure and all these other things, because Pickwick gets a lot of pressure. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but
we're on Pickwick, and I did want to get into that. So you come from Buffalo, New York, you're in Kernersville. You said, F it, I'm going to give it a shot. You're giving it a shot. That was 5 years ago. You have a really good resume with Major League Fishing. You've made good money. You've won a lot of BFLs and some good tournaments. You fish Pickwick. Is your first time on the TVA?
No.
Okay. So let's do a recap of that tournament. And talk. And so you're going to Pickwick. It's what, May? Yeah. Mm-hmm. May. Talk to us about how you break Pickwick down for practice.
All right. So I do all my homework beforehand, right? Google Earth, you watch the weather, you watch the current flows, you kind of see what you're heading into, because that's the one thing you have to stay a step ahead of what these fish are doing. You don't want to be one step behind. So if you don't make that adjustment quick enough, you're going to end up falling behind. So in preparation, watching how current flow is, watching the water temperatures, watching the water levels, because I got burned on this lake last time and I learned from it that they will drop this. The fish on Pickwick can spawn in one day. When they have the water levels up, for whatever reason, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. They'll spawn in not one day, we'll say 2 or 3 days. There's definitely an expedited spawning period on Pickwick Lake because the water level fluctuates so much. And it's not real clear. Like if it was a clearer lake, they could spawn in 10 feet of water. Pickwick's not that clear. So I got burned on this last time. I went in some spawning areas and I knew I stay away from the bank. Stay away from the bank, figure out where these fish are spawning on the main lake or where they're post spawning. And it ended up they were kind of in the same areas. So I did a lot of scanning. I probably scanned out of the 3 days, probably 2 days I spent scanning. I spent 1 day fishing cumulatively. So I spent a third of my time fishing and 2/3 of my time riding around looking at things. So I was looking for large spawning areas where the fish would be going to and where the main river areas that those fish could spawn on. And Pickwick has a lot of stumps in it. There's stump fields everywhere. It used to have a lot of grass. So everybody knew where these fish were going to go. They were going to go to the stumps. It's the only thing they can get on is a hard bottom with stumps, right? So Pickwick's loaded with bait, so you couldn't really pick an area of the lake. There was a shad spawn going on. I can get into that for day 2 without scope. I knew the shad spawn was going on. So that was going to be like my early morning thing. And then I was going to transition to identifying or isolated stumps and fishing isolated stumps on day 1 with live scope. Because on day 2, my plan was to, without live scope, is to fish the denser stumped areas so that when I was blind casting, I wasn't looking at one stump. I was looking at 5 in front of me. Does that make sense?
100%. And for the audience, something that's different, last time we had some of our MPFL buddies on, no forward-facing sonar technology for that league. Major League Fishing Invitationals, day 1, forward-facing sonar is allowed. Day 2, forward-facing sonar is not allowed. And then if you make the day 3 cut, forward-facing sonar is allowed. Is that correct, Todd?
Yes. So that's the other thing where I kind of fell behind was it does change a lot in your approach and what you do and how you practice.
For sure.
It took me to the 4th tournament of the year because Kissimmee, it's Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't really need scope. The second was on Smith Lake, and I figured out how to catch fish without forward-facing sonar. And then the second one was Hartwell, which I figured out how to catch them without forward-facing sonar, although it didn't work out. And then on Smith, I wished I had forward-facing sonar. Second day, it killed me, but I just didn't find a backup pattern, right? So in this tournament, I knew that I wasn't going to have live scope on the second day. These fish are off the bank, aside from the shad spawn. So I found those stumps, and that was kind of my game plan. And then I just marked a lot of stumps, and if there was a cluster of stumps, I created another waypoint so that I knew I could line up with it. And using Garmin mapping and Garmin, I forget what the product's called, but it's their point 1, basically. It's their antenna, external antenna, XD24, I think. And just use that to kind of line up with stump rows and then hit stump rows on the second day. So first day of the tournament, that's what my practice went. So I had shad spawn and I had stumps. That was it. Couldn't find them on ledges. I went and looked on ledges. They didn't. The one thing that I did learn was the current was 100,000, which is very high for that place. So there was a ton of current in the lake, and largemouth are fat and lazy, and they don't want to swim in a 3-mile-an-hour current all the time, so they get out of the current. So the current has to be right, which goes on to the whole learning process, because the current flow at the beginning, first day of practice, was over 100,000. By the time we were done practicing in the course of 2 days, it had gone down to 50 and 40,000. So you have way less current. So your practice on day 1 and the water level was dropping. So you have all of this happening and you're trying to play chess, right? So you're trying to figure out where these fish are coming to. So I figured if these fish are spawning while the water's up because they had some rain the week before, again, doing your homework and following the weather the week before, and following the water levels and understanding, what's full pool and what these fish need to spawn. I believe a lot of these fish spawned when that water came up for 2 to 3 days, and people did catch them on bed. So, that they were still spawning shallow, but there were some post-spawn fish too that were just gorging on the shad spawn. So day 1 of the tournament, I started out scoping, and I had 3 fish at 2:00. And I ran all over the lake, trying to find a place that was where I could get some bites and get some bites quick. And I had 1 fish on a crankbait because I had a backup pattern to try to cover some water, and the stump fish it just didn't work out in the morning for me. So I went and I fished until 2:00, and I had 3 fish. But I had 2 good ones. And then I pulled onto a stump row that had 4 or 5 stumps in it, and I caught 2 fish at the end of the day. I caught a 4.5 and I caught a 3. And then I had to go. So I only caught 5 keepers the first day, but that kind of led me into day 2. Okay, don't start on stumps. You don't have scope anyway. Don't go to these groups of stumps. You're not getting a lot of bites. get some bites, put a couple fish in the boat. Hopefully you get some on the shad spawn, 3.5s. You're not going to catch 25 pounds doing this, but get some fish in the boat, settle yourself down so that you can slow down without live scope. And on the second day, I caught a limit in the first hour. It just happened that I pulled into a pocket that I remembered from years previous, again, having that history, where I knew that the spawn or the shad did spawn and that there was fish there and the potential to catch a good one. There was a good population of fish in this area of the lake. So I went there and skipped a jig underneath boat docks, which is one of my favorite things to do, swim a jig under a boat dock. And I think it was my second boat dock. I caught a 3.5. I was like, okay, cool. I got one. And my goal was to catch 3 before I got out of there. And I ended up catching 10 or 12 keepers and called up to about 13 pounds, which allowed me to slow down. And then I caught the big one on a group of stumps, which the wind was blowing against the current. Anybody who fishes current knows that is like, it's blowing your boat sideways. You're trying to line up with your target. You're not sure if you're casting in the right direction. So if I didn't have a limit, I probably would have fished too fast and sucked that day, but ended up being able to relax, slow down, catch that big one. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, all right, I should be catching more fish here. I should at least be catching small ones or getting more bites. So I started to move out towards the main river ledge. And it kind of goes like this, right? You have your smaller ditches that run out to the main river channel, which creates all these humps out in between the main river channel and the shoreline or the spawning areas. So you almost have like the fish will move here, then they move here, then they move here, and they progress all the way out to the river ledge. So I just kind of followed them. And then I ended up catching 2 really good ones at the end of the day on the second day. And I said, all right, I think I know where they're going. So I figured I would be good on day 3, catch a couple of shad spawn fish, and then go catch some of those river fish. But I never relocated them. I caught 4 fish on the last day and only had 10 pounds. But I don't regret it because I was like, I'm in top 30. I want to try and do something special. If I hit the right group of stumps, I could catch them real good quick. And it just didn't happen for me.
I appreciate you saying that about those humps out there and the fish were progressively moving because we all think about that post spawn. You start from the spawning pockets and you work your way out points, right? From your secondary points or tertiary, secondary, you work your way back out to the main lake points. You're doing the same thing. It sounds like on these river system lakes. It's just they're underwater humps out there because there's just not a lot of that. A lot of, I guess, shoreline. There is no shoreline between where they're spawning and all the way, get to the main lake. So that is, I just wanted to take that because that's a good insight. I'm going to remember that.
Well, and I think a lot of times, when we look at fish behavior, we tend to overcomplicate it. And it's really not that complicated, but it can be, you can mentally spin out if you're just not figuring it out. And I wanted to ask you, day 1, you got 3 fish in the box by 2:00. Are you somebody that freaks out, or are you pretty, now that you have 5 years at the invitational level under your belt, do you remain patient and calm, or were you spinning out?
I'm getting better at it, and it's something I'm trying to work on, but I do tend to freak out sometimes. And I know that I've spun out. I spin out a bunch. It happens to everybody, but it's when the stakes are so high, it just puts so much pressure on you to do good because I want to do good and I want to continue to keep doing this. Yeah. It's funny, like when I came in second at West Point last year, I was 1 week away from saying I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And then West Point happened, and I was like, yeah, I can still do this. But I had 2.5 years of having very, very little success. Having good day 1s and terrible day 2s, having bad day 1s and good. I just couldn't put it together. It was one or the other, but it never, I couldn't keep it going. I couldn't keep the flow going. Especially on a lake that you don't really know, like Gunnersville. I had like 18 something on the first day, and this is embarrassing and horrible, but this hit me here. So you catch 18, 19 pounds and you understand what the fish are doing. The conditions change on day 2. You weigh in 3 fish for 5 pounds. Like, how do you weigh in 3 fish for 5 pounds at Garnersville Lake, dude?
Well, it's better.
I left that tournament and I traveled with Mark via Cole Harris at the time. And I know guys know Cole. Yeah. And Cole just said, I'm sorry, dude. When I pulled into the driveway and I'm just like, I'm driving home. I drove all the way home after fishing for 10 hours. I drove 8 hours to get home. And I'm just like, how do you get up from that? You know, you just got your ass whooped.
You know what's funny? Go ahead. No, yeah, you do got to get back up again. How many times do you talk to yourself on the water and say, dude, you know how to catch fish. What are you doing?
Oh, yes.
What are you doing?
Every day, all day.
All day. It's one of those things. And Ben said this years ago, because we'd get this question like, how do you bounce back? How do you stop from spinning out? Just catch a fish.
You
just got to catch a fish.
Yeah.
Right?
Put 5 in the boat. That's always I guess I'm one of those guys, and I'm just starting to realize that, like, I fish 90% of the guys do. I fish way differently when I have a limit in the boat than when I don't. Absolutely. When you catch a limit in it's like, all right.
It changes things.
Very least I caught 5, right? So Charlie Evans isn't going to beat me today. I feel better about myself.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this question. Here's something that I've noticed about myself. So I always have the 5th fish curse superstition, right? Catch 4 for some odd reason. I haven't had it recently, but it used to be a thing of mine. But do you ever think that when we get 5 in the box, sometimes we tend to just get lazy then? We're like, well, we got 5 now.
Not for me, dude. I smell blood if I get 5.
Okay. I was just wondering, like, it's like, you know, oh yeah, I got 5. Like, what? Maybe for the guys that are just like ponying their money up because they got so much of it, it doesn't really matter to them. And then for others, it makes them even more hungry, right? You want to get more. So I think that's important.
I wanted to get to 20. I'm like, dude, you can get to 20. You can catch one more and call this fish out. If you catch a 4-pounder, you get to 20. And then if you get to 20, you want to get to 22. If you get to 22, you want to get to 25, right?
I mean, sometimes you get frustrated. Like, I can get frustrated. Okay, I got my 5. I got 5 for like 8, 9.
Yeah.
And then so like, okay, I got to go big gore hunting. I got to change something up. I got to go find the big fish. Sometimes you end up catching that fish and those fish, and you figure it out. And other times it's like, why can't I figure out the good ones?
Yeah. Yeah.
Big fish are hard to catch.
Big fish are absolutely
they're smart for a reason. They're very difficult to catch.
Well, let's jump off the invitational thing now. So, first of all, congratulations. You finished, I think, 29th in the invitationals.
Yeah,
on Pickwick
on the last day, and I only got 10 pounds on the last day.
I do want to point out something here, and it's not only you. We got the stats pulled up. There were several, and this is for everybody out there that believes a lot of people can't catch fish unless they got forward-facing sonar. A lot of the top 40 caught more weight on day 2 than they did on day 1. All right. You caught 18 on day 2, you caught 16 on day 1, and then you caught 10 on day 3 with forward-facing sonar. So it's not the technology. People need to understand, like, it just, I don't know. I don't want to get into it, but anyways, so you knocked that one out of the park. That was an amazing tournament. You got what, 2 or 3 left for the season?
2.
James River. What's your next 2 events?
James River and the St. Lawrence River.
Oh man, are you looking forward to both of those?
I've won it at the BFL level on the James River before, and I have always done well on the St. Lawrence River.
There you go. So you got 2 bruiser events, man. They're going to be bruisers. You got June, James River, and then you got July. It's going to be the St. Lawrence, man. That's going to be a good one, dude. Good gracious. That's a smallmouth, just blast of this. So, yeah, dude. Real quick, because we're getting we're running over an hour here, which we don't run on timelines, but we want to get you back to talk specific stuff. When you're not fishing the invitationals, you're working with Garmin, you're working with Ionic. We all run Ionic, by the way, every single one of us. Me, Ben, Pete. We absolutely love their batteries. We have talked to our audience before about how important clean power is and all that stuff. So we definitely want to bring you back on here to talk nothing but battery stuff, because if there's anybody that can talk it, it's you. But outside of the invitationals, what is your training ground? What is your lake that you train on the most?
Blues Creek.
Blues Creek.
Yeah, it is now. It has been for the last 10 years, 12 years. Before that, it was like, before that, it just depends on where I've lived. I've lived in so many different places. I used to fish team tournaments with a buddy of mine on the Yadkin River chain. So I have experience, and I've learned from, I have very good friends that are on the Yadkin chain that are amazing fishermen and even better human beings. And they're as Southern as you can be. Jason Threadgill is one of my buddies that I first met when I moved here. We are complete polar opposites from where we come from, but we just immediately bonded, and it's all because of bass fishing, right? So he's a very good, close personal friend of mine. He's a hammer. He taught me a lot about the Yadkin River. And that's the thing too, is I've teamed up with people and I've helped them on certain places. And they've helped me in certain places. So
sure.
You start to build a network of friends, and everybody's trying to get better. So
do you roll solo, or do you have a group of dudes that goes on the invitationals?
I have traveled with David Williams, John Canada, Bradford Beavers, Martin Villa, Cole Harris, Rob Nakatomi, Jimmy Reese. Right now I'm rooming with Jimmy Reese, Skeet's brother, and Brett Carnwright, who is from Lake Champlain. He's a hammer too. You're going to hear his name quite a bit. You can tell as soon as you meet people, he's motivated. He does his homework. Yep. He's a little bit younger. He's hungry. He's great with technology. He's going to be a good fisherman. By the way, for the record, I could see Drew Gill coming from a mile away. He did not surprise anybody who knew him before he started winning Bass Pro Tour events. And
that dude.
He absolutely is. He's a dominator, man, for sure.
He's a smart kid.
Yeah,
he's very intelligent.
I don't think that us old guys, I don't think our days are over. I think we just got to continue learning. This sport is evolving. Technology is evolving. I think you either evolve with it or you got to get out of the way because you're going to get left behind. And if it's legal to use, you better freaking use it because you better not bring a knife to a gunfight. You know what I'm saying? So, and you're really good with that technology. And we all met at Elevate Outdoors and we're going to link up and we're going to go fish. And we can bring you down here to our neck of the woods. I just got off Sharon Harris earlier. I caught over 40 fish. I didn't even have scope turned on. They just eating that shaky head sun offshore, and it was real fun. You know what I mean? So, but this is what it's all. What'd you say?
Catch any big ones?
I caught one that was about 4 pounds on a shaky head, but no super giants. A bunch of cookie cutters.
Are the giants still in there?
There's still giant bass in there. You just gotta. There's a time and a place for them.
The 40-pound bags aren't there.
The 40-pound bags aren't there anymore. So, but you can definitely crack some 20-pound bags for sure. But this is what I wanted to say. I think it's so cool that you live up on Blues. We're down here on Harris and Jordan and Falls and stuff. We're all about building that network and building that culture. I'm from Michigan. He's from Missouri. You're from Missouri, right?
I'm from all over.
You're from all over. But anyways, the one thing I will tell people, like, not everybody's going to share information with you about fishing, specifically in the South, because they're so close hold with it. But I know Todd will help you guys out, right? So if you're up in the Kernersville area, Todd, you run a guide service, do you not?
Yeah, I do some guiding and electronics training.
Yep.
A lot of guys, most of them are older, who just
Yep.
don't understand the technology. They don't know how to set it up. And I can, break it down into, because I'm a dummy, I can break it down into simpler terms and give somebody a one-on-one class on how to use it. Now, are you going to get really good at it and kick everybody's butt? No, but if you put in your time, if I get headed down the right path, you will start to be able to use and understand what you're looking at and how to catch fish using technology.
Well, as we wrap it up here, that's what I wanted to tell people. I learned about your business when we were talking to Elevate Outdoors. I think it's a great market for it. And it's something unique that you offer up in your area. Where can people go to get that part of your business?
Todd Walters Fishing on Instagram. You can message me there. Todd Walters Fishing on Facebook. You could message me there. My email address is toddwaltersfishing@gmail.com. You can contact me that way. Or if you see me at a show, stop by, say hi, and we can figure out what to do. But a lot of times I'll go on customers' boats, or they'll come on my boat, or we'll do both where, I show them how I have my configuration set up and why I have it set up in a particular way. And I can actually, show color palettes and gain and transducer angle, and we can get in all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah,
it's in
customers' boats, but we can use mine too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you didn't hear Todd, myself, and Ben talk about is Todd giving you all the waypoints that he has on Blues, right? Like that is not the intent here. And Todd,
you can have them. They won't be there tomorrow. You can have every waypoint I have. You can't. So there's a couple, bro. That's the other thing too, is, spotted bass, they move so much, right? They're on brush, they're on humps, they're in 20 feet of water. The next day they'll be 500 miles away from where they were the day before. Spotted bass move. That's what they do.
They do. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're in the market to catching spotted bass, Blues is a great place to go. Norman's a good place to go. Gaston's a good place to go. But Todd's up there and he's willing to show you guys how to use your electronics, or get on his boat, show him how. Obviously you're going to pay for that service, but you can find him at all those places that he just talked about. You need to watch Todd as he continues to progress through the MLF Invitationals. They got 2 tournaments left this year. We want to bring him back on the show to talk about ionic batteries, clean power, forward-facing sonar, all that good stuff, because we're all about educating and providing knowledge to people, not necessarily giving you all the answers to the test, but weaponizing you with enough education so that you can go out there and learn how to catch these fish. And I'm here to tell you, North Carolina largemouth are a different class of fish. They are a different class of fish, not spotted bass, not smallies, but North Carolina largemouth. They're hard fish to catch, man. They're hard fish to locate, and then sometimes they can be hard fish to catch. So you're definitely going to want to get some of Todd Walters' education there. Todd, before we end here, why don't you shoot out all the people that support you the most along your journey with you and your family?
All right. So ionic lithium batteries, obviously, Martin and I have a great relationship. We've grown as personal friends over the last few years. I'm helping him now developing products. So that's another thing. I'm part of the Ionic company, right? So we've developed that relationship over the course of 3 to 4 years. Nitro Bass Boats, Bass Pro Shops in Concord, North Carolina. They hooked me up with my last boat. Mercury motors, they're bulletproof. They're great. I love them. I had a trim pin issue 5 years ago. And, knock on wood, the last couple of motors I've had have been fantastic. But Garmin, Corey Hunger at Garmin, he's been a huge partner of mine. You guys saw what I do for him. That's the other thing. You just got to be willing to do what other guys aren't, right? You asked me how to get into, how to make that step, or how to build these relationships. It's how you do it. They don't pay me a lot of money, but I do it because I'm building a relationship with the company, right? So I'm getting ready to do another event with Garmin. It's going to be a lot of fun. Me and Terry Scroggins are going to be at the College National Championship at Lake Hartwell, and we're going to be showing the new Garmin Force Pro. We could talk about that at some point too. So I'm excited to do some more stuff with Garmin. I do shows. We can do demos when I'm at the shows. Come talk to me. I mean, I'm more than willing to show you what I know, and I don't know everything. So maybe we can learn from each other. Douglas Rods, Christian at Douglas Rods. They've been great. They've been super supportive. Martin Villa got me hooked up with them. He had the relationship there. So we continue to develop products with them. We're working on a new rod line that's coming out hopefully in the next year or so. But it's a process, right? So it's going to take time. And my wife, without her consent, with my family that supports me, my mom still watches. I'm 51 years old. My mom's 83 and she still follows me and watches me fish.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, with her love and support, it's been extremely helpful. I know I'm probably forgetting somebody. Z-Man Fishing Products. So I'm a big shaky head finesse guy. Their SMH worm is phenomenal. It's great on a drop shot. It's great on a Nico rig. It's great on a shaky head. Stands straight up in the water. I've had tremendous success with it. They have a new shaky head hook that I used at the tournament last weekend. Phenomenal. Dave's tournament tackle, his swim jig. I keep trying to make my own, but I keep going back to his. He makes some amazing swim jig that I've had a lot of success, and I owe a lot of thanks to him. He's been a great partner too. K&J Tackle, which he owns, is in Jamestown, North Carolina. Go check him out. He's got a great tackle shop. Everybody knows who Dave is. He's a spinnerbait guy. He's been fishing BFLs for 480 years. He's great. So yeah, I mean, probably forgetting some other people, but everybody that I've talked to at gas stations at Oklahoma, or people that I've stayed at their houses with in Georgia and Oklahoma and Texas and Florida, and people I've met on the road. I mean, I appreciate you all, and I know that I've gained some followers from just from my boat and my truck, and they'll shoot the shit with me at the gas station for 15, 20 minutes, but I'll give them a hat, sign it for them, give them a hat, and hopefully make an impression where, maybe that guy owns a company and he was impressed with me. And so you're constantly working and networking with people. And I thank all those people that I've met over the years, man. It's, and you guys and people in North Carolina and New York and guys I meet at trade shows and start to talk to. I appreciate all you guys.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't think you forgot anybody. The most important person you put in there was your wife, and can't forget the wiener dog and stuff like that too, which I love. Todd Walters, MLF Invitationals, professional angler. He's got his guide service. He works. He's got his private business as well, and we met him at Elevate Outdoors. He's part of our culture. Todd, hang out just for a minute as we end the show. We appreciate you joining us and supporting what we call building a culture of anglers, helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad.
Get
son.
that. Huh?
It's a toad, dude.
Yeah. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.